Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Big news in the heavyweight division, with WBC kingpin Deontay Wilder revealing on social media he's agreed to an offer to fight WBA, IBF and WBO champion Anthony Joshua in the UK for all the belts, for undisputed. But he's also said in the same breath, his $50 million offer to Joshua to fight in the US first, it's still on the table if he wants to accept it. But whatever the situation is, it's time for Joshua to decide. So we'll get to the statements and then to the what next, because the real question now is, will Joshua face Wilder? And where? And has all this from Wilder, has it come too late? Is an Alexander Povetkin fight in the offing? So I'll get into it first. So the Deontay Wilder on social media, and this depends on which social media platform you're on or check, because you may be on multiple, but you may have seen a slightly different message that was sent out from Wilder. So on Instagram and Facebook, which are obviously connected, you can post to Instagram, it automatically goes to Facebook. Deontay Wilder had his full message on the situation. He says, "Dear Anthony Joshua fans, since you're acting dumb, delusional, or just plain stupid, here you go. Breaking news. The $50 million offer for Joshua to fight me next in the US is still available to him if he wants it. In addition to that, today I agreed to their offer to fight Joshua next in the UK if Joshua prefers the fight in the UK. The ball is in their court. It's up to them to choose US or UK. I'm in." And if you caught the news on Twitter, you would have seen it was a much shorter message, and that's because Twitter, fewer characters are allowed per message, and that message didn't extend to so many insults towards Anthony Joshua's fans. But anyway, so we have ESPN reporting Wilder's co-manager Shelley Finkel saying, "We've agreed to the terms that Eddie Hearn has put out to us for a fight in the UK. Deontay has accepted his terms to fight in the UK. Deontay has sent an email to Joshua on Sunday night, and I sent one Monday to Barry Hearn and Eddie Hearn telling them that we officially accept the offer to fight under the terms they gave us and to send us the contract. Now we will see if they live up to, or if they are trying to go through with the fight with Alexander Povetkin first. Hopefully we'll get an answer in the next couple of days. If they change their mind, the $50 million we offered them is still on the table. That is still for them if they want it." And Finkel says, "The offer Wilder accepted is a 2-fight deal with terms agreed for a rematch that would take place in the United States. The target date for the first fight is September 15th, but the fight could be in October or November because September 15 is the proposed date for the rematch between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, which they wouldn't compete with." So Finkel, he adds that there's no percentage split, but they've offered us a good purse. Not as good as we feel it should be, but we want the fight and we're willing to take what they offered. We wanted a percentage, but we didn't think we could get it done in a quick time frame. So we said, let's take what they've offered us. Deontay wants this fight. And in terms of television rights, while Joshua fights on Sky Box Office pay-per-view in the United Kingdom, his contract with Showtime expired following his March 31 title unification win over Joseph Parker. So a Wilder-Joshua fight could go to the highest bidder in the US. The US TV is Eddie's call, and this is Shelley Finkel speaking. "We have a preference for Showtime because we've been with them." So certainly there is a lot to unpack there with Finkel's detailed comments and of course what Deontay Wilder has revealed on social media. But the key details as I see it, so the offer presented by Matchroom on behalf of Anthony Joshua to fight for all the belts in the UK, so we're talking undisputed, it has been accepted. Deontay Wilder has accepted the offer. And that offer is a flat fee. A good purse, as Shelley Finkel puts it. And they are initially targeting a fight date of September 15th. But they are willing to change that if it does ultimately clash with a Canelo-Golovkin rematch, should that happen. And it's probably worth noting, Canelo, he fights on the two Mexican holidays, so if he's fighting on that date, he's probably fighting anyone regardless if it's not Golovkin. So the ball is well and truly in Anthony Joshua's court, as Deontay Wilder put it. I mean, Joshua, you have to say, he, as the A-side here, he's gotten his way here with Wilder accepting the terms that were offered. Anthony Joshua's eventually been able to force Wilder into accepting this. So Matchroom, it's going to run the promotion. It will manage the logistical details and all the other associated elements of the fight and fight week and everything that goes with it. To sum up that situation, it's going to have control. And I've said this in previous videos. Sure, location was clearly a sticking point, and a big sticking point in this whole equation. But actually, a lot of this came down to something broader than that. It was about control. Because Joshua, he's made it clear he doesn't want to travel for this fight. He essentially wants to wring out any possible advantage that he can get by fighting at home. He wants to keep building on what he's done in the UK, and he said that multiple times. I can also imagine that the terms of any deal that has been struck are likely to stipulate, and this would be similar to the Parker fight, that there would have to be a neutral referee, probably not that last chap from Italy, I'm sure, at least one judge from the US, a neutral judge, and one judge from the UK. But I guess, before we get ahead of ourselves, so Shelley Finkel stated they've asked for the contract. They've asked for that to be sent so they can look at it, agree to it, sign it, send it back, sign, seal, delivered, all that sort of stuff. And they do hope that Joshua, that he agrees to the fight, that he is going to actually take this fight now that Deontay Wilder has agreed to Joshua's terms. Because obviously the subtext to that is, has Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, sensing a Wilder fight was potentially out of reach, have they gone and agreed a deal with Alexander Povetkin, the WBA mandatory? Fink was effectively saying, you haven't gone off and done this deal, have you? Because we've agreed now, we're ready, we want to do this now. And you'd hope that a deal hasn't been done in many respects, because if it has, well, that's certainly going to open up Anthony Joshua, to accusations of ducking Wilder, that he didn't want that work and such. I mean, the conspiracy theories, would then start about who knew what and when, and whether this was all designed to make Joshua look like he was ducking and, all that sort of carry on. Both sets of fans, the hardcore element of both would be reveling in this and going back and forth and really having a go at each other. And I think we've certainly tired of that over this 2 and some odd months of negotiations. It's been very tiresome. So this whole thing, I saw this today and was like, oh, thank you, we're almost there. It looks like we're almost there. And given Joshua, he stated that this fight with Deontay Wilder, it's his number one priority. Well, let's hope that pans out, because let's face it, this is the fight that most of us want to see. If you want to see the Povetkin fight or see the Brazil fight for Wilder, you're definitely in the minority. And probably best not you leave a comment, because I want to see Joshua Wilder. This is a great fight. Let's see undisputed. Whoever wins is going to take home all the belts. We haven't seen that in 2 decades. Let us have this piece of history. Let boxing fans have a bit of this. And sure, us as boxing fans, we're completely selfish about this stuff, but, I mean, who cares? I mean, we're fans of the sport. We want to see the big fights. We want to see this stuff happen. And it had been a relatively lean period for a number of years, but the last year or two, things right across boxing seem to have been heating up, and we've been getting a lot of good fights. It's been great. But from what Finkel had said, they did want a better deal. But essentially, they knew they couldn't get what they wanted in the time frame that was available. And they've just simply decided to accept what was on offer. And part of that is because Deontay Wilder wants the fight. So they're not wanting to let this opportunity slip away. And that explains why they've taken a flat fee. They'd spoken previously when $12.5 million was put up originally way back when, that they weren't interested in a flat fee. They wanted a percentage. They threw out a figure off that it'd take 40%, and, Eddie Hearn wasn't having a bar of it. But eventually a flat fee has been taken. And I'm sure from Eddie Hearn's point of view that, suits him down to the ground, because it means he doesn't have to open the books. And ultimately, Wilder, Finkel and co., you have to say they've succumbed to a degree to this A-side pressure. Joshua and Eddie Hearn were firmly exerting. They started this more than a week ago saying, look, here's a deal. Take it or leave it, because in a week or two we're moving on with or without you. You leave it, we move on. Povetkin's next. So it may not be the best outcome for Deontay Wilder financially, but let's face it, if he wins the fight, he becomes the A-side, and there is a rematch, and that rematch is going to be in America. So if you look at it, step back, that it's actually a 2-fight deal. So does a flat fee for this first fight, does that seem so terrible? Because Wilder's going to get paid twice anyway. And let's face it, the second payday, it does have the potential to be huge if he wins the first fight. And even with the first fight, his payday is going to be several times more than his highest payday of $2.1 million US. And in the context of Wilder's $50 million offer to Joshua, so Joshua, he turned that down and stated he was willing to sacrifice millions to fight on home turf. So I'm really interested to actually see what he's given up. Has he really given up that much? I mean, we may never know, especially if they don't have to open the books. Who knows what sort of upside he could be getting on his end of the bargain, on his side of the coin. But the other comment, from Wilder about the $50 million still being on the table for a US fight, that was still available. Come over, we'll have that fight in the US first. To me, I think that's more posturing. It feels like a red herring. I don't think there's anything in that. And he's known that for some time that wasn't going to happen. That opportunity, it's come and gone. But he just wanted to remind us all that actually that was on the table. A record purse for a heavyweight was on the table and it wasn't taken. Yeah, that's, sort of very gobsmacking in itself. But I'm not going to, digress into that. But all going well. Maybe we are going to see some positive news with this fight in the next week or so. And huge credit to Deontay Wilder for actually, coming on board, accepting a deal. He obviously didn't like the deal completely, but he wants this fight. And full credit for him for wanting the fight, because he should want the fight. We want to see this massive unification. So let's hope Joshua wants the fight. And we get to see the fight we want. Hopefully some good news soon. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.